the U.S. agricultural sector is facing an unprecedented crisis. Canada, the largest supplier of fertilizer to the U.S., has abruptly imposed an export ban. This sudden move has caused fertilizer prices to skyrocket by 300%, jumping from $400 per ton to over $1,200. Millions of acres of corn, wheat, soybeans, and other crops are now at risk. Farmers across the Midwest are left without enough fertilizer, with shortages estimated at 60 to 70% of what's needed for the upcoming season. Fields are going unplanted, farm machinery sits idle, and warehouses are empty. This is more than a cost crisis. It's a direct threat to national food security. Without fertilizer, yields will plummet, jeopardizing grain and soybean supplies across the country. Processing plants and livestock farms are scrambling for resources, and experts warn that 5 key states could face catastrophic agricultural collapse. Minnesota, one of America's top grain producers, harvests over 7 million tons annually. Farming is the backbone of its rural economy. Now, farmers are reporting fertilizer shortages of over 60%. Many fields of wheat and corn may go unplanted for the first time in decades. For small family farms, the situation is dire. Emergency loans and desperate renegotiations with banks are becoming common. Farmers are forced to ration every gallon of fertilizer, risking low yields or total crop failure. Even large agricultural corporations are struggling. Their operating costs have tripled, with economists estimating over $1.2 billion in additional expenses for Minnesota farmers this year alone. The crisis is rippling through the supply chain. Grain processors must cut production, while livestock farms face shortages of feed. Minnesota's agricultural collapse will not only hit local economies but could drive national food prices higher and disrupt U.S. grain exports worldwide.
Iowa produces over 2.5 billion bushels of corn each year, supplying feed for livestock, ethanol production, and international exports. Over 90% of Iowa farmers depend on imported Canadian fertilizer. With the ban, costs have tripled, crushing farm budgets. Small and mid-sized farms cannot afford the spike, forcing them to cut planting areas or use inferior alternatives. Even large-scale operations are under severe strain. The ethanol industry is already scaling back production, with some plants operating at less than 50% capacity. This not only threatens local economies, but also disrupts the national energy sector. As corn supplies fall, food prices from bread and cereal to meat are expected to rise sharply this fall. Iowa's agricultural foundation is cracking, threatening both domestic and global food markets. North Dakota produces more than a quarter of the nation's wheat. Its farms supply both domestic bakeries and international markets. The fertilizer ban has forced many farms to cut their planting acreage by nearly 50%, an event not seen in decades. Farmers now face impossible choices: plant with limited fertilizer, leading to low yields, or leave land idle and risk financial ruin. Even prosperous farms are taking emergency loans just to purchase fertilizer. Costs have quadrupled, pushing many operations to the brink of bankruptcy. Experts warn that U.S. wheat production could fall by millions of tons, leading to sharp increases in bread and pasta prices nationwide. International buyers are already canceling contracts, citing concerns about quality and reliability. North Dakota, once a symbol of agricultural prosperity, is now on the edge of a historic collapse. Wisconsin produces over 25% of America's milk supply. The state's dairy farms depend on grain and grass to feed their cattle. As fertilizer prices tripling, feed crops are now prohibitively expensive. Over 40% of dairy farms face the risk of cutting production or selling off livestock to reduce costs. Small and mid-sized farms are hit hardest. Even as income falls, operating costs remain at record highs. Many are taking out risky loans just to keep their herds alive. If this crisis continues, Wisconsin could see a wave of farm closures. Reduced milk supply would disrupt the national dairy chain, leading to shortages of milk, butter, cheese, and other essentials. Consumers could face record-high dairy prices, while processing plants and export businesses grind to a halt. South Dakota is a major producer of soybeans and corn, essential to food processors, animal feed mills, and international buyers. With fertilizer costs tripling, many farmers cannot afford to maintain their usual planting areas. Some are abandoning fields altogether, leading to a sharp drop in expected yields. Soybean shortages are hitting livestock producers hard as feed prices soar. This drives up the cost of meat and poultry production, which ultimately impacts consumers nationwide. Small farms face the greatest danger. Many are drowning in debt, forced to gamble on loans to buy fertilizer in a tight market. Even larger farms are scaling back operations, putting future harvests at risk. Experts warn that South Dakota's agricultural crisis will have nationwide consequences, breaking key supply chains for food and exports. Canada's fertilizer ban has sent shockwaves through the U.S. agricultural system. From Minnesota to Wisconsin, 5 key states are facing unprecedented challenges. Fertilizer costs are up 300%. Millions of acres are left unplanted. Crop yields and livestock production are falling sharply. The consequences are dire. Domestic food prices are set to skyrocket. While international markets lose confidence in U.S. exports, American farmers are battling bankruptcy, debt, and supply chain breakdowns. Corn, soybeans, wheat, and dairy-critical staples of the national food system are all under threat. This crisis exposes a painful truth. U.S. agriculture, though powerful, is deeply vulnerable to global supply chain disruptions. The coming months will determine whether this is a temporary shock or the start of a long-term agricultural collapse.